What's happening, guys, and welcome back to another Sunday Scan. This is the first scan post Traders for a Cause, and we just had such a great time at that event. The causes themselves, the speakers, the presentations, just everything about it, being able to meet all the traders, not only from within Investors Underground, but people who came from all over the world, all different communities. It was just incredible to be able to put faces to the names for these people that we talked to, and just to be able to connect and talk about trading and other great things. It was just a fantastic time. So, Great event. Very busy week following that. We had all the bio plays. We had some crazy squeezes. So we're going to catch up on all those names that were in play, or at least a couple of them that were in play from the last week. And then later on for the main watches, we're going to bring on Emil from Investors Underground to do the main watches section. So Emil's fantastic. He's been in Investors Underground for a very long time. He's a moderator in there. He does the morning broadcast. He's active in the chat. So I'm excited to speak with him later on and to see what he has on watch. So let's get right into it. And the elephant in the room is drug. So this was the crazy parabolic bio name that really sparked a ton of FOMO and range in the sector. And so I just want to break this one down a little bit and talk about the structure, why some of these things happen, and a couple of ways that you potentially could have traded it. So the first thing, like the backdrop or the context, is that there's been some action in the biotech sector recently. There's been some mergers, there's been some deal flow, and so it's been in play. But you really had drug start to set off the sector in a new way, where it's almost like the speculative 2020, 2021 types of moves, and that's a market shift. And usually when market shifts happen, that's when two things happen. One is people who have been doing well up until that point tend to struggle. It catches them off guard. And people who have been maybe more on the sidelines, or not, things have not been in their wheelhouse, they get a chance to be able to tap into a new type of market. So whether someone has been trading well, or whether someone's been on the sidelines, a market shift, it can be an opportunistic or an interesting time for both of those people. So what really set off drug is that there was a headline about some other mergers in the space, but as you can see, the volume and a couple other things really made this structure unique. So the first thing was that, a big runner on a low float in a market where there's a lot of FOMO already and a lot of shorts are present. So, short selling has been profitable for a very long time. It goes through pockets where it's easy, and it goes through pockets where it's really difficult and it's trappy. And this market shift was a time when short selling became more difficult and trappy if you were trying to fight something on the front side of the move. So a little bit more backdrop about drug is that low float stock, small market cap, hot sector, very shorted, and huge gap up, or huge run off the open. So that can make for a combo of these stocks that do pretty crazy things. And it's actually kind of logical of why that happens, and I'll get into that now. So a lot of traders, especially more systematic traders, or people who are looking to basically, find the big gap ups and then wait for things to fail to follow through, and then, basically fade all day back down to where they came from. The mindset for a lot of that is like the higher the better. And what basically that means is that the higher, one of these crap companies goes, the more unwind potential it has later on, especially if there's no like real catalyst or real reason, fundamental reasons for it to be going. So that's why you have a lot of these stocks are on watch from shorts initially. And so when you have something that, runs up 100%, 200%, 300% in the morning, that goes on everyone's radar. And so that becomes like one of the most closely watched, or the hottest short potential trades of the day. And so that was the first thing that kind of got the shorts interested in a name like this. And then you had a couple other things. You had longs who have been rewarded for holding some things. And so I think what you basically had was a process of shorts being overly excited to get in on this thing and nail it. You had longs that were, accumulating some of the float. And then it was later revealed that you had an investment fund that bought about 9% of the company as well around that day. And so you basically just have all these participants in the market, basically fighting each other to to get a piece of that float, and they're locking it up. And if you have something that is already a low float and everyone's taking a piece of it, you can have very small portions of the float really, determining the entire range and the move. And so basically, it was just a process of every time it looked like it was, peaking out or a big runner that stalled out, you would have the shorts get in, and they would basically be fighting over themselves to get the move down, and it would stay trappy and base, and then you would kind of have that next leg up, and the same process would just keep happening where, okay, if it was up 200%, now it's up 400%. It looks even more attractive. It's that same process. Shorts might add in more, longs might add in more, and you just have that process where as long as it's kind of ramping up and then basing and holding that base, that is the trap there. And you basically just have those these legs, leg after leg, doing the exact same thing. Ramp up, it looks like it's going to fail to follow through, but instead it just traps, and then the next leg up, and then it does the same thing. And you have more shorts adding at each of these phases, and probably more longs adding along some of these too. And you can have Discord groups, or you can have other things, alerting members that, this is a stock to get into. So you just have the float get thinner and thinner, and we hear the phrase higher the better, but in this case it's higher the thinner, because the more activity, the more participants are fighting over this thing, the thinner the float gets, and that's how you can have those wild moves to the upside. So just a couple things of how you could have traded this. I did have some trades on this long. I had it from maybe somewhere in the high 17s to 21, and then another trade from I think 24 to 35 or something like that. So and it was basically the process of just recognizing the trappy action, the very high volume, the very low float, the environment, everything about it. Some of these things they make sense to me. The strong parabolics, because I tend to think about stocks and structures a lot, and so if I can kind of feel that the float is getting locked up, and as long as there's no dilution or anything initially, then these can go pretty far. So another thing to pay attention to is look at the symmetry of a lot of these legs, where it's, you have that first ramp up, and then you have just this leg after leg after leg that all look pretty similar. And so if you were to draw a trend line like up here or a trend line here, you can see that it's all within its kind of normal range of the day. So even though zooming out, this looks crazy overextended and everything like that, if you were to zoom in, all these legs were pretty orderly, where, if this had only gone from, let's say, $1 to $2, and that chart looked exactly like this, you would say, oh, that's pretty orderly. It goes from $1 to $1.25, consolidates, $1.50, $1.60, $1.80, $2 or something. And so sometimes it's worth paying attention to just the structure in the intraday structure and the symmetry of some of those moves, as opposed to just, oh, this is up 500%, this is up 1,000%, this is up 1,500%. That matters less when it's all, who's in it right now that's determining how far it goes, not the percent gap up. So, if you were to ignore these numbers over here and just focus on, what is the structure of this? What are these legs doing? Then you can get a really good read on some of these. So that was kind of like the first day for it. And I know I'm kind of going on about this, and I'll run through some of the other ones a little bit more quickly. But so that was like the first day. And then you kind of had, the big volume and then consolidation. Volume dries up. And then guess what? A couple days later, you have that like liquidity trap style. So actually, I'm going to zoom out a little bit, but you basically had it consolidate, and then we talk about that all the time. Big volume day, big ramp up, consolidation, the volume dries up, 100 million to 13 million to like 3 million, and then, there's still shorts in there because, it's up so much, it has to go down. And then there was some kind of catalyst. They announced their private placement, which usually, it would go down, but it didn't. And the float was, not increased, at least in the public market. And so you basically just had that same process of it was trappy and doing those same symmetrical legs, the exact same, basically the exact same thing happening over here as it had over here. And so, just a good name to study and to watch. Whereas we see this chart shape all the time. It's just because this was a higher price stock and it was up so much that's why it was on everyone's radar. But this is actually very normal action, where you have a big leg up in a stock, it runs a certain amount, it consolidates, the volume dries up, and then it comes back in, and then that is the liquidity trap for it. And then Nate had a great basically comparison of comparing up here to the stock TOP, where you know, similar moves and a late day kind of well, you had a run up after the liquidity trap played out, and then consolidation and that late day run up, break the highs, and then, you know, go up there too. So just a good name to go back and review. And this sparked a whole lot of other names. And one of those names was NUZE, where you can see, just to demonstrate that kind of same concept, you have these similar legs all happening until it starts to basically get away from that channel, and then it can get a little bit overextended. But same thing, where you have the high volume, you have the symmetrical legs, and then you have the consolidation. And then you'll see over the next couple of days how this plays out. The volume dries up, and then what happens next? You know, does this kind of come back and liquidity trap and ramp to the highs, or does it kind of just stall out? So NUZE, same thing. And I had some long trades on that one as well. Again, just using the concept of what is the structure of the stock, the higher, the thinner, and then, you know, using these kind of symmetrical legs within a channel. And you can kind of see this channel forming throughout the day. It's not like you have to spot it right off the open, but that was something that I was definitely paying attention to in trading this week. And then a couple of other names. So you had these SMR, basically small modular, like nuclear reactor stocks. So SMR is the ticker of one of these. And then there's a couple others, like I think OKLO, which we'll get into in the main watches. But basically, we had things like CEG and VST. Those were like the clean energy or the AI energy plays that in the big names. And we've had those on watch for a couple of weeks. And then you kind of get the sector to trickle down into the smaller names, where you have things like Amazon and Microsoft and Google, all looking to basically partner with some kind of small modular reactor for nuclear energy to power some of their data centers or some of their AI applications. So there's only a couple names in the space there. And things like SMR and OKLO, I believe that's the ticker, and then NNE, there's a few of them, but that's where money is going. And because these are relatively small market caps, you know, only $1 billion or a couple of billion, you know, if you have $10 billion of dollars looking to go into a sector like that, you can get these big moves. So a lot of these doubled over the past week. And, you know, we'll see if they kind of consolidate here after monthly options expiration, consolidate for a few days, and then the next leg up. But this is a sector that's in play. Next one is FUTU. So this is a China name, and we've been talking nonstop about the China names, talking about, you know, the fundamental backdrop is horrible for China, but they had the stimulus announcement, but then they kind of stalled on the stimulus. And so if that's the only thing that was keeping China up, once that stalls, then you can see what happens to the names as they fade back down. And then you also have some other considerations like possible tariff wars and some other things that affect a lot of these Chinese stocks in the future. So we'll get into that a little bit more on the main watches, but the China names had a big fade back. And so we'll see if the government steps in again and says, okay, we realize that the only thing keeping the market up is when we talk about stimulus. So maybe they do another round. But if things stay as they are, then, you know, a lot of these have just retraced, you know, half the move or something. So it's kind of at a key point where either the government steps up and does something, or, you know, they're going to stall most likely, or it could even fade back for a round trip if they don't step in again. ASML. So this was an interesting one in the AI space. They accidentally released earnings. It popped up on their website, and that was like an intraday big opportunity there, which I botched, unfortunately, because I was looking for the perfect name to kind of play this on the downside, because this hit all the AI names. It hit NVIDIA and everything else. And the name that I eventually tried to trade was LRCX. But the problem is that this happened so fast, and I was looking for the perfect ticker to play. And in that time frame, I missed a good part of the move. And by the time I got in, I was starting to get chopped up. So that was a botch on my part. But this was a huge opportunity. And I think the lesson from it is that if you have big news, if you have sector moving news, sometimes getting into a good thing faster is better than a great thing slower. So sometimes you just have to take the move while it's playing out. Next thing, NFLX, Netflix, they had a big earnings win, and they've done a lot of pricing strategies over the last couple of quarters that are paying off. They had record profitability. So I think, as we are into earnings season, you're going to see a lot of these names that have been doing some interesting things over the last few quarters start to stand out. And as long as the environment is bullish enough, and as long as they're having good earnings, you can see the reaction to that, and good guidance matters as well. So that was the name that was in play. And yeah, so those were the main ones that I really want to cover for kind of the recaps. And then before I bring on Emil, I'm going to give the disclaimer that neither he nor I are financial advisors, and these are not buy or sell recommendations. This is for informational and educational purposes only. Now let's go chat with Emil. All right, we're happy to have Emil on today. Emil, you've been a moderator in Investors Underground for a very long time. You're a fantastic trader. You're on the morning broadcast, giving your game plan and sharing what you're doing in chat. So welcome on to Scan. And just for people who haven't seen you on Sunday Scan in a bit, tell them about your style and what kind of names you're watching in this market.
Well, thanks for having me, Chris. Yeah, I trade pretty much everything under the sun. I'm an active trader, and I'm mostly focused on what's in play in any particular day. Small caps, big caps. Obviously, they are different in approach, but I trade pretty much everything that it's moving, like I said, and try to always ahead of time try to crop a plan for each one of those that are moving, and be ready when they are.
Definitely. And I know that, you had kind of like a swing or longer term background, like, many, many years ago. And then you kind of shifted your focus to more short term trading. And now you do a combination. So you still have plenty of swing trades on watch and, large cap, small cap. So I'm excited to see what you have on watch for this week. So if you're ready, I will pull up your chart and we can go over some names.
Yeah, perfect.
Great.
Yeah. So for the week ahead, I have a few names on radar. First of them, it's Palantir. I think it's one of those companies that, despite the fact that came a long way up to this point, it's something that still has potential to go. Obviously, needs a little bit of consolidation at these levels, but what I'm looking for right now is basically a push through all-time highs from every company I'm looking at or I'm trading. They also have a fundamental angle, and the fundamental angle with Palantir here is that probably they do not have so much competition. At least I believe so. They are ahead of everybody with at least 1 year or so. So that being said, I would like to see more, consolidation and a breakthrough all-time highs. I already have a swing position on them, and I like the fact that yesterday they had this pullback, and they kind of held all day and closed strong. So I'm expecting to see more upside and then a push through 45 level, more or less. And from that point forward, we shall see how they are going to behave. They have earnings soon, next month, but probably they are going to, break above that level and maybe consolidate, and we shall see how the numbers are going to be. And then if maybe build up for a bit above all-time highs, we shall see if there is going to be another leg up. Pretty much like Netflix yesterday. We all seen that despite the fact that they've been up a lot this year, still managed to break out above this level, and yesterday been strong all day long and closed even stronger. So at this stage, momentum it's there, obviously, and all these tech names, they have a lot of momentum, so no reason to fight with them. Obviously, everybody wants to short them at some stage, but as long as the trend continues, there's no reason to fight with them. Same things go to PayPal. I'm very interested in this one next week. I like the fact that it's riding all these moving averages, and past few days had like 1, 2, 3, 4 inside days, so a very narrow range. And yesterday a strong close. I'm expecting to see maybe a push through or a gap up on Monday, and then some follow through. Definitely a good risk reward here for a long, risking pretty much 78.50, let's say, and looking for more upside. Sorry. As we can see, it's coming off a very long base, beat up chart. So there is a lot of thin air above that. So very long bias on this one, and looking for a potential swing also. Then I am having path, same thing here, beat up chart. They pretty much straight down from the IPO, and so far breached this level, I mean all-time lows, and now kind of build up. So I'm long biased on this one for the pretty much same reason. Looking at this type of trades that are beat up and then find a base. This base usually it's quite long. I mean, it takes months to develop, and then once they break that range, you have a good risk reward on the upside. Same thing like Baba. You know, we had this long range base, and then once broke out, was a nice run. We had Robinhood, same thing, beat up chart since IPO, then long base, then once managed to break out, was a good opportunity on the long side. So pretty much same thing on path. Looking for a break of this range, obviously risking pretty much 1850 area. So we shall see. This is a lagger in tech sector. So we have all this momentum in Palantir, Nvidia, Netflix, and all those other names. And this one, it's quite behind. So I am thinking if at some stage manage to break this range, there is a lot of upside potential. So that's the plan here. Then I am looking at Unity software, same thing here, beat up chart, now found a base and managed to break it here, and now consolidated in the past few days. So maybe needs few more days, this one, to get even tighter than it is right now, but pretty much looking for any breakout and dips or some sort of a volume. But personally, for me, not the volume, it's indicative for a long, rather than having the catalyst and then having the momentum to push through. Tesla, it's also on radar for a long. This one had a big reaction to the presentation they had a week ago, but as we can see, it's still riding this 100 SMA, and so far from my perspective, it's okay. I'm looking for a long trade here, but I'm not very biased on it. They have earnings on they have earnings in 23 of October. So maybe it's going into those, and then it's going to have a breakout either way. I'm rather leaning towards waiting to see what's going to happen here, and then decide if I'm going to have a trade. I would really like to see some upside, but we shall see. Obviously, earnings are always 50-50. You don't know where the price might go. So I'm not really looking to trade before earnings. Then I'm having VTAC. VTAC been pretty crazy yesterday. It's a small cap, been trappy. This one run after the momentum fired by drug, and been a good short at some stage. I had some on, but now what I'm looking for, basically, it's going to be any push towards VWAP plus. I mean, I would really like to see 135, 140 coming into these levels here and here. So any push towards above 130 would be ideal for a short trade. And obviously the range is going to be there, more than 40-50% if it's going to reach these levels, risking obviously Friday highs. So that's pretty much what I have on radar for next week. But I also have, I'm looking at Dollar Tree, but this is something that, because like Chris said, also I really like to swing names, and so far it's nothing here, but I'm expecting to see some upside into end of the year. So like I said, from technical perspective, it's nothing here, but since it's a bit up chart, if it's going to put us some sort of a base and then break out above, I'm going to be interested to have a swing position into end of the year. This is not something that is going to move fast. As you can see, it has 2.7 ADR, but still can be very lucrative if we are on the right side. So I'm keeping an eye on this one for a long trade, but so far still needs time to unfold and to develop a little bit. I'm not going to be trading anything right now unless it's going to get above these moving averages and find some sort of a base. So Chris, that's pretty much what I'm having for next week. And what I hope, it's going to find some momentum at some stage on these big caps, and obviously on VTAC. It's more of a short perspective.
Yeah, definitely. A lot of great watches on there. And you bring up a great point with, it's earnings season unfolding right now. We've seen some very large reactions. We had ASML accidentally release early earnings, and they fell, 16% or something, and then another 10% the following day, and then they rebounded some. But it goes to show that in this market, you really have a separation of like what's doing well and what's doing poorly just by earnings. And overall, you've seen a lot of positive earnings, but if something misses or if they're giving bad guidance, then they're getting hammered. So I would say that the earnings range for this season has been higher than normal. And I'm not surprised if there's a lot of momentum. No one wants to be in a dead name that has bad guidance or anything when there's so many other things moving. So I think that's part of the reason why you're seeing that big separation. But those were fantastic watches, Emil. And I'll get into some of mine now. So the way that I think about a lot of my watches is I want things that are in play, and that can be either sectors or that can be individual stocks. And one of the most in play things over the past couple of weeks has been these the small modular reactor, kind of like the nuclear stocks. So basically, you had things like VST and CEG, which were like the clean energy or the nuclear utilities that ran a couple of weeks ago. And you had names like Microsoft, Google start to put out press releases that they really want access to this clean energy or this nuclear energy in order to power a lot of their AI applications. And so that was like the first start of it. And then you got, once the big names ran, the utilities ran, now they're kind of going after some of the smaller names, the small modular reactors, which is basically just like a super small compact version of like a nuclear power plant that they can use to power, their AI applications. So there's only a couple of names in that space, and you have things like SMR, which has a great ticker for that. And then you also have OKLO, and that's the same guy who's behind OpenAI. He's also backing some stuff here. So there's only a couple of names. If you have a lot of demand going into a space where there's only a few names, then you can usually get some very strong runs, especially if these are smaller stocks that have, a couple $billion market caps, as opposed to something with tens or hundreds of billions of market cap, like some of the big utilities. So both of these names are on watch for me. over the next coming weeks. We had a nice run. You had a lot of options activity, bullish activity, kind of rolling higher. So when you have a clear theme, clear sector, only a couple of names, and you have bullish options activity, and you have bullish buying and everything, I think that this is going to be a sector that will be in play on the upside for continuation. But usually after you have like these short-term blow-offs, especially around like you just had a monthly options expiration this past Friday. So usually you need a little bit of consolidation. Maybe it does like a little cup and handle thing, consolidates and then breaks out again. But as long as the AI theme is in play and as long as that AI energy theme is in play, these names, SMR and OKLO, will definitely be top watches for that sector and for that momentum to continue. And then next, I have TSM. So speaking of kind of like earnings winners, they had a blowout quarter, just fantastic earnings. They guided up. I think they're going to triple their revenue or something over the next several years. So you had a good reaction to earnings. And then right after that, you had the U.S. do a probe into them to basically see how close are they tied with some of the Chinese stuff and making sure that they're not doing anything that they shouldn't be or skirting regulations or anything. So that kind of brought it back down. But I think that as long as TSM is being responsible and they're not actually doing anything bad, I think that dip will be soaked up, and then this will be a name on watch for continuation. So I'll be watching for calls on TSM and for this to run well past the 200s and maybe into the 250s or so over the next month or so. So big moves, but it was big earnings and big guidance. So TSM is definitely a name on watch for me. And just like a side comment on the AI space is that with earnings season, you're really seeing a separation of, what are the key core names that have, really good earnings that are doing well and deserve to be doing well versus all the other names that got swept up with the AI hype. So I think you're starting to see, a flight to quality with that. And so earnings is a way for them to prove that quality. The next name is Coin. So this one had a lot of relative weakness over the last couple of months, maybe 2 months or so. But as you have some different dynamics shifting in the market, Coin has been back in play, and so has MSTR. So MSTR has been like the relative strength name, but Coin is starting to play catch up now. So I think as long as you have some some bullish activity in the crypto sector, as long as Bitcoin's running, with some of the election stuff, you're starting to have a more crypto-friendly environment potentially, in the future. And so I think a combination of that is going to increase the price of Bitcoin, increase the crypto trading activity, and that benefits names like Coin and MSTR.
But by the way, I've seen that FTX clients are going to receive some of the money back. I mean, small amounts, but still, those money, it's funny enough because they are going to receive some money right now when the market is hyped. So those money probably are going to come back into altcoins or stocks. It's to me, that's some sort of a bullish, especially on miners. MSTR, Coin, Mara, Riot. So a lot of names from this sector then might go with the flow in the next few weeks, at least until election, or we shall see. But I think those money are going to come back in the market, in any form. So I think we are going to witness some crazy movers.
Yeah, totally agree. I think that the miners have been such laggards, like Mara, CLSK, IREN, some of those names. They've been laggards up until this point, but now that I think that you're starting to see some hype come back, that kind of like spreads throughout the sector. And exactly like you said, you're going to have a lot of money sloshing around there, and that usually finds pockets. Yeah, definitely. So the crypto stocks will be on watch for me for more upside. And then, potentially as we get closer to the election, if things are, less uncertain or whatever, maybe you have a big kind of retest or flush that you can play a mean reversion trade on that as well. And then SMCI. So this is, this name is always on watch for me. It's very frequently in play. But one thing in particular I'm watching is that you had a lot of bearish option flow over the last week go into like the 42.5 or 42 puts for this upcoming week. And so, whenever I see bearish option flow or bullish option flow, it's never like a sign on its own. that's like a clear direction, but it's something I want to pay attention to. It means that either someone wants more downside protection than normal because there could be an event coming up, or there could be a decision that has to be made. But I never, totally have my bias aligned with the option flow because, and this is something that, I'll get into on another scan maybe, but option flow, a lot of people, like they see a bunch of put options or a bunch of call options. They say, oh, that's bullish or that's bearish. But a lot of times it's tied to something else. So someone might have a huge long equity position and want to hedge, and that shows up as, puts. Or they might have a big short position, but they buy some calls as a hedge. And so you don't know what the full picture is. And so you have to put together as much of the flow as possible, the context and everything, to get a good read. But this does have bearish option flow, and we'll see if that is someone who wants protection for an upcoming decision, or if it's someone who just anticipates some volatility. So SMCI will be on watch for headlines over the next week, especially, and I'll be watching that. So, and then finally, we have PDD. We've done a lot of commentary about the China names where, China's really struggling, their economy is struggling, the companies are struggling, but the government did some stimulus. It started out as super bullish, a lot of stimulus. They were going to flood the market. And then they kind of came out and said, well, we're going to do it incrementally. We're going to do it a little bit slower pace. And the market reacted very poorly to that. So big correction in the China names. It just goes to show that, when you can identify the key variable, which is basically their commentary on stimulus, that is the driving factor. And then you also have some considerations with the election stuff. Are there going to be tariff wars? Is something else going to happen where it's, if these companies are already struggling and then they have to, deal with things like that, that could be more pressure. So I think you're kind of at an inflection point where China either needs to say, okay, we're going to up the stimulus again, and they need to, get things going. Or I think you're just going to have some consolidation, or maybe even a full round trip if they don't say anything else. So those were the main names that I really had on watch. And yeah, Emil, any commentary on any of those?
No, pretty much. I think that's a great watch. Like I said, looking into a little bit of fireworks into end of the year with all the things we have in our daily life, with the political stuff. I think that's going to heat up the market a lot. I'm expect some more momentum, especially in the tech names. But again, I am going to ride the trend as long as it's going to last, and I have zero interest to fight with it. So as long as the setups are going to offer a good risk reward in terms of opportunities, I'm going to be there. But if they going to be invalidated, definitely not going to stay there. So I'm always on toes. And that's why I choose. I try to choose those that are beat up names and laggers. I'm looking for them to catch up with the main ones, rather than chase every move that it's breaking out and run in the past a lot. So for me, I find more edge since I'm looking to milk it longer. So if I'm having a long-term plan, for instance, with Path, I think this one, it's a good company, and if managed to find some a better base and manage to break out of this base, I think there's a lot of upside momentum. Obviously, right now doesn't look good, but we also know that people are not appealed by those companies that do not look good, and that was the case with Chinese names, PDD, Baba, and so on and so forth. So nobody want them when they been chopping around at the bottom, but right now they are the hot theme and everybody wants to hold a piece of it. So it's not that I'm looking to catch the bottom and I have zero interest in such thing, but I'm really interested in seeing when and where I could or I can position myself and have a good risk reward for a trade. And in this case, it's a long trade. It's going to be a long trade. And like I said, in comparison with PayPal, same thing happened there. Nobody wanted PayPal here, but once the momentum shift and found the base, right now seems that at least it's going to hold. Obviously, there are going to be dips on the way up, but that's healthy, and I expect them, so I'm still watching these names, and I think that might be a important behavior and an important change in trend, and maybe they are going to reach previous levels. So obviously we have, for instance, on PayPal, first has to reach 100. We shall see. But anyway, looking, I think there is thin air above, and I think they have a lot of upside momentum. So that's pretty much my plan for these. And if, for instance, my plan is to have a swing trade, sometimes I'm looking for, okay, I'm going to have obviously an entry, and then I'm deciding if I'm going to hold it through. Usually when I time my trades and I'm getting in position, I really want to see that I really want to see them that they are working, and I prefer to take multiple losses and rather than have a very wide stop. And I prefer to be wrong many times until I'm going to nail it, or maybe not. But I'm not going to let risk getting me. So that's the approach I have with these. And sometimes I might start like a day trade. So I'm having some doubles, and by the time it goes by and the setup unfolds, then I decide if I'm going to add or if I'm going to hold for a few days, see if it's going to build up and hold the trend, so on and so forth. And then I'm going to build a position. And usually I trail them with moving averages. So pretty basic stuff, but that's pretty much proven that works. Not necessarily for me, because I'm not inventing the wheel, or I'm not. I just apply what I've seen over the years.
Yeah, definitely. And I'll have all those names on watch, and we'll chat about them in the room and see how they unfold. And maybe I'll join you on some of those. But yeah, Emil, thank you so much for joining us on Scan, for sharing your watches. And yeah, I'll see you in the room.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Have a nice one.
Absolutely. You too.
Yeah.
Thank you everyone for watching. If you want to trade live alongside me and other members of the Investors Underground community, then check out investorsunderground.com to see if becoming a member is the right decision for you. They have some of the best technology and a lot of great members there, all looking to help other people improve their trading. And also check out Investors Underground content on YouTube and Twitter. Thank you.